Calling all authors, the Your Book, Your Voice podcast, hosted by Robert A. Lane, is on the air, featuring everything you need to know about narrating your own audiobook. But it doesn't stop there. From special guests, including authors and professionals from the book industry, to sharing tools and techniques needed to be a confident and compelling narrator. The journey starts now. So please welcome your host, Robert A. Lane.
It's a beautiful day, at least where I'm at. Hopefully it is for you. And I do welcome you to the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. Maybe it's your first time tuning in. Maybe. If it is, welcome. Again, I am Robert A. Lane. I am an audiobook coach and producer. I specialize in helping authors like yourself narrate your own audiobook, put words and expressions in your own voice, and have it out there for people to hear you tell your story the way it's meant to be heard. I do this through an audiobook coaching program that I teach. I'll talk about that later, but I want to dive into the topic for today, which is about nonfiction and fiction authors narrating their own audiobook. Because I get this question a lot, should I even narrate my audiobook? Should I have someone else narrate it for me? Once in a while I get people talking about AI, and of course we crush that. We squash that idea right away because that's just cheapening your author brand and really a big business mistake that you will make if you use AI to narrate your audiobook for you. Everything that you've built, your author brand, what you've presented to your readers and hopefully now audiobook listeners, you don't want to cheapen your author brand. The trust that they've put into you as an author just kind of gets destroyed there. Not a good business move. All right. Not a good business move. But we are going to talk about narrating your own audiobook. Okay. And I want to hit with our nonfiction authors first. Now, you fiction authors, just hang in there because we're going to talk about that as well. Nonfiction authors, if you've written a book, a lot of the authors that I've worked with in my audiobook coaching program have written memoirs, have shared stories, personal stories, life experiences. Maybe it's something when they were growing up and went through a traumatic experience, or maybe it's a great travel book and they're sharing the wonderful places around the world that they've experienced. And those are always great books to work on. Or maybe it's, again, another life experience that you've gone through. I've had authors who've gone through a cancer journey. I've worked with authors who've dealt with like some really insane stuff, like being in a religious cult and the physical and mental abuse of that and coming out, right? Surviving. That's a great story. So many different topics. I'm working on a book right now. This is actually the second book for the author that I'm working with, helping him create his audiobook. It's called Tracks in the Sands of Time. This is volume 2, and he talks about being a rock star, right? The rock and roll lifestyle. And, you don't need to be famous to have the same experiences because, again, as a musician myself and having the same kind of experiences, whether you're famous or not famous, you do go through the same experiences. So his book is fantastic and he has a great way of telling stories. Anyway, so no matter what your book is about, maybe you are an educator or a teacher, maybe you are a coach, or maybe you're an entrepreneur and you've written a book to talk about your coaching program or to share your memoir or to teach a concept, you do need to narrate your own audiobook, okay? Obvious reasons, of course, is it's your story. You crafted this great book, this great story that you're telling. You put your own author brand stamp on it, right? So that means that it is your personality, your energy, your emotion, the way you express yourself. Because again, everything that you are, everything that encompasses who you are is your author brand, right? Everything that encompasses who you are is your author brand. And that's what you bring to the table when you wrote your book. And this is what you bring to the table when you do your audiobook narration. And I will say this, okay? I will say this. For nonfiction authors, I believe, and I stand by this 100%, that all nonfiction authors need to narrate their own audiobooks. If you're a nonfiction author, you need to narrate your own book. And it does come down to those intangibles. And those intangibles are just so important because that's what allows you to stand out in the crowd. Because those intangibles, which are your emotions and energy and genuine authenticity and sincerity, all these things that are emotion based that you can maybe not necessarily physically touch with your hands, but you emotionally feel it. And you know what? There is a physical feeling to that as well. That's what makes you you. That is your author brand. And that is what allows you to stand out in a crowd because it's your unique style, your unique personality. Again, everything about you, everything that encompasses who you are is your author brand, including your personality, your sense of humor, the way you were brought up, your morals, your values, the way you view the world, all that stuff. That's who you are. And all those aspects, those intangibles are in your written word. And what's great about what's already in your written word is your voice. Your voice is already there. Now, when people read a book, they imagine a voice in their head as they read along. But why not have it be your voice? This is why you narrate your own audiobook, because it is your voice coming from the source, coming from the person who wrote the story, who experienced the story. If it's a memoir, who wrote the coaching program or the educational program, if you're an entrepreneur or a teacher or an educator, who wrote the children's book, who created the characters for that. I know I'm kind of leaning a little bit towards the fiction side of it, but that's okay because, fiction authors, you are included in this. And this does apply to you, fiction authors, as well. Everything that encompasses who you are is what comes through in your audiobook narration. And the number one thing that you need to always be tapped into when you are doing your audiobook narration is that core reason why. Why did you write your book in the first place? What was the fire that was burning inside? What was the spark that told yourself, I have a story to tell. I got a memoir to share. I got a coaching program to teach. I got some educational concepts I want to share, whatever it is. And I want to put it out there in the world for the whole world to read. What was that why? Why did you want to do that? Why is it so important for you to write a book and publish it? And I know it's more than just vanity metrics, though I have come across a couple of authors who live by vanity metrics, which is a huge mistake and is a bad business move because, how many likes and follows and all that isn't what's going to make you money, right? You got to attract the right readers. You got to attract the right followers and people who appreciate you and love what you do and want to hear about how you express yourself. And that's, again, getting back to the author brand, especially if you've written a book, if you're a coach or an entrepreneur or a teacher. There are a lot of authors out there, let's take career coaching or even finances or relationship coaching or weight loss, nutrition, right? There's tons of coaches out there that teach pretty similar things. Maybe they teach similar concepts, but do it in their own style and in their own way. But that's the key. It is in their own style. It is in their own way. And that's what allows them to attract the type of clients that they get and why those clients want to work with them and why those clients want to read their books, because they resonate with those clients. And those clients resonate with those authors and those coaches and teachers and entrepreneurs. Even with a memoir, you're going to attract readers that resonate with the story that you have to tell and the way you express that story. And that is your unique stamp. And again, that author brand of yours is what allows you to stand out in a crowd. So it's really important to narrate your own audiobook because that's what you're solidifying your author brand. And you're putting something out there that is top quality because, again, it's coming from the source. It's coming from the person who wrote the book. It's coming from the person who lived those experiences. No other person on this planet can express the experiences that you've lived, that you've written and published about in your book better than you, because they didn't live it. Now, there are great voiceover artists out there, professional narrators, who that's what they do for a living, and they're good at it from a technical standpoint. They'll sound great. They'll, put, their expression into it. But that's the thing, that even though they put their expression and their take on it, that's where the disconnect happens. Because they are taking your words and applying their experiences and their interpretations to your story. Again, that's where the disconnect happens, because what they talk about and how they express themselves may not match the expression and the energy and the emotion and the experience that you did because you lived it. That's where the disconnect is. So from a technical standpoint, narrators are great. They'll sound fantastic. Technically, it's like a guitar player, right? You can get a guitar player who's a great technician. Man, he can shred a million notes in a measure. But when it comes to the actual emotion of the song, are they really tapping into it? Or are they just a great technician? Because technical is impressive for like 3 seconds, 5 seconds, and you're like, whoa, that was cool. But then when it comes down to the emotion, did they really hit the mark? That's why I love, I know I'm talking about music, but again, it's a great analogy. But that's why I love guitar players like David Gilmour, Pink Floyd. The way he plays guitar, the way he approaches music is expressive and emotion. He puts in notes where they belong, and he lays out and doesn't play when there isn't anything that's needed to enhance. And I love that interpretation, because that's really how we speak and how we think and how we feel. And he's expressing that through an instrument. So that instrument becomes his voice. Your instrument is your voice. And that is how you are able to express yourself the way that you want to be heard, the way you want your words and your story and your everything. Again, personality, energy, all of that. You want it to be delivered in a way that is really 100% authentically you. Because true authenticity is the key, really. You don't want to try to sound like somebody else. You don't want to pretend you're a radio DJ person or, some, deep voiceover, whatever. Be you. Okay? Again, as I say, for nonfiction authors, I'm 100% behind every nonfiction author narrating their own book because it's your story. Now, a lot of these things that I've mentioned for you fiction authors do apply to you. It is still your story. You created the characters. You created the scenarios. Okay? You know the backstory of your characters. And you need to think about when you're telling your story, because you are telling a story, fiction, that's fine. It's like sitting around at a campfire and you're sharing the story with people. It's like, it doesn't matter if you have multiple characters. Nobody's going to be confused on who's talking, what, not. And you don't have to do, a million different voices or a million different dialects to get the story across. I worked on a great book by William Merck that was narrated by his wife, Senya, who did a fabulous job of narration. And the book's called Ghost Flower. Fictional book. Great story. Great story. It's a time travel story. It's a really, really good story. But she narrated it, one voice, and there was no issues, no confusion as to, okay, what character is saying, who's saying what, and the way the book is written and the way that she delivered the narration, very visual. I'm seeing images in my mind. I'm going along with the story in my head. It was really, really great. It felt like I was just sitting there with Senya as she's telling this fabulous story. And it was enthralling, riveting. I'm telling you, it is so good to hear an author tell their story. So fiction, you definitely can narrate your own book, and you should. And I think every opportunity there is for you to narrate your own audiobook, you need to do it. You definitely need to do it. Now, I know you're like, oh man, I got these characters and these dialects and this and that and the other. Depending on what the story is, think of it this way. You need to ask yourself this question, okay, before you decide to hire a professional voiceover person who can maybe do multiple voices and bring these other characters to life in a way that maybe is how you're imagining it. Ask yourself this question. Is going all out with fancy dialects and doing different voices for every character, is it really moving the story forward? Or is it just fluff? Can you still get the story across without spending thousands and thousands of dollars hiring voiceover people to do a narration, right? Answer that question. If it's like, for the story that I've written, it really needs to have a professional voiceover person doing these multiple dialects. And if that does move your story forward and you feel it is a crucial component to getting the whole concept of what you wrote about across, then absolutely do it. And I'm saying, I'm not against narrators at all. Like I say, there are great narrators that are out there, and especially for fiction books that can really bring your story to life, then do it. But if you just have a handful of characters and you're just telling a story and there is dialogue between the characters, that's okay. Do you really need to have different voices for every single character to get the story across? And I'm telling you, just from experience working with authors, all the authors that I've worked with have gone through my audiobook coaching program, and with the fiction authors, they did a fine job. They didn't need to have, all these professional voiceover people doing different dialects and all this crazy stuff to get their story across. They were able to do it and do it well when they narrated their own audiobook. So just, again, something to consider. So you have your nonfiction narration and you got your fiction narration. Those are the questions that you need to ask. Well, first of all, again, and I'm just going to really hit this point home one more time for all you nonfiction authors, and that is if you've written a book, even if you've done several books, and you should narrate them all, actually. I'll talk about that in a second of why. But if you're a nonfiction author, narrate your own audiobook, okay? No one can tell your story better than you. It's your story. You lived it, you breathed it, you experienced it. It is yours. Let it come from the source. Leave your legacy in your own voice so people can discover you generations from now and hear you tell your story, okay? Now for fiction authors, again, you're telling a story. You know your characters. You know their backstory. If you're able to express your story the way you want it to be heard, the way you want it to be told, because you're just telling a story, you can do it and it will work. Don't doubt yourself. Believe in yourself, believe in your voice. And that's one thing I want to mention again is don't ever think that your voice is so awful, so horrible that you don't have the skills and the tools and the sound that it takes to do a great narration, because I have yet, and I've worked with a ton of authors and helped them create their audiobooks, and I've never turned one down. And I would, if I felt that their voice wasn't going to work for whatever reason, I'll let them know. Because it's like, I want what's best for you and for your book. I'm not going to be like one of those people or companies that just, take your money just because they want your business. No, I want your book to be fan-frickin-tastic, because that's my job as a coach and as an editor and producer. I want to make sure that your audiobook is great. And I treat every client that I work with, every author I work with, as if it was my own book, because I want it to be fantastic. And you deserve it. You deserve the best. Because as an author, your author brand, you want to make sure that your products represent you in the best possible, highest quality way. So you don't cut corners. You don't cut corners on your ebook, on your paperback, on your hardcover, and you definitely do not cut corners on your audiobook. Never cut corners on that, because that is a representation of your author brand. And you'll be doing your readers and listeners a disservice if you cheapen your author brand and you cut corners. All right. So just keep that in mind. Now, I mentioned about if you have multiple books. Yes, turn them all into audiobooks. It's a great, great marketing tool, right? You have a book, let's say you wrote a book 6 years ago, 10 years ago, it doesn't matter. Turn it into an audiobook, narrate it, and publish it as an audiobook in your own voice. Now you've just taken this book and put it back into the forefront of the readers that are already following you, that may not have even just realized or discovered that you had a back catalog of books, and now you're putting it back into the forefront. So you're going to generate more revenue and more sales, and again, expand your reach. And that's another very crucial point about having an audiobook anyway, is that the audiobook world continues to grow and expand, of course, has been for several years now. It's already surpassed ebook revenue, and that gap just continues to widen. So there are more and more people that go for audiobooks first before they even go for the other formats that you offer your book in. So that's why, again, it's a crucial step for you as an author brand, as an entrepreneur, because you are. Take your business seriously, because you are an entrepreneur. I'm proud of you for hitting that mark. Once you publish your book, you are a professional. You are an entrepreneur. So embrace it. Don't say, I'm just a hobbyist. No, you're not. You're a professional. You are a professional. So love it and embrace it, right? But make the professional and good business decisions that every entrepreneur would do. And that is turning your book into an audiobook that you, as the author, narrate. Fiction authors, again, want to hit that point home one more time. And that is, if your book, again, asking that question, if I go through all this production for my story, is it really going to move my story forward? Is it really going to generate more sales? 9 out of 10 times, not really. The story that you've written is good. The story that you're telling, you can definitely tell it in your own voice. Again, ask the question, because if your book does need fancy voiceover work, then that's fine. Then make that decision and do it, okay? If you don't have an audiobook, you're not sure how to start, you've looked into it and you're like overwhelmed and confused and just like, man, forget it. I don't want to do it. Please don't do yourself a disservice by not creating an audiobook. There's links in the description, by the way, wherever you're listening to the podcast from. Book a call with me. Schedule a call. Let's have a conversation. I talk with every author before I ever enroll anybody into my Your Book, Your Voice audiobook coaching program. We have a conversation. We find out what you want to do with your book. I want to find out more about your book and some of the marketing strategies, your ideas behind it. And I'll give you more details about how the audiobook coaching program works. It's only 12 weeks from setup and preparation to coaching to editing to publication. That's it, 12 weeks. Done. So let's have a conversation. I got 30 plus years experience as an audio editor, voiceover artist. And so I do all the editing for you. I do all the uploading for you. I even provide you with the equipment you need to set up your own recording space and teach you how to do that. But the most important part of it is that I teach you about doing a great, compelling narration to keep that listener on the edge of their seat from opening credits to closing credits. So check out the links. They're all in the description. Book a call. There's other links there as well that talk more about the program. So nonfiction, yes, narrate your own audiobook. Fiction authors, yes, narrate your own audiobook. If you can, do it. All right. Thank you so much. That's what I wanted to share with you today on this episode of the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I am Robert A. Lane, and my last assignment to you is this. When you're out and about in the world, smile at a stranger, say hello to them, because that small gesture of kindness can make the world a difference in somebody's life. So be a life changer. Let's spread some positivity in this world. We need it. All right, my friends, have a great week. We'll be talking to you on the next episode of the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. Take care.
This has been Your Book, Your Voice with host Robert A. Lane. Tune in each week for another powerful and informative episode. And remember, Only you can narrate your story the way it's meant to be heard.